Welcome to Frequencies, a satellite podcast brought to you by ST Engineering iDirect, where we take a closer look at shaping how the world connects. Recently, ST Engineering iDirect presented a webinar entitled The Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. The webinar, which touched on a variety of important themes in the maritime industry today, was moderated by KD Adamson, the Futurist-in-Resident at Futurenautics. KD Adamson is a catalyst and visionary for those building the future of shipping, maritime and the blue economy. Now we are catching up with KD again to discuss some of these ideas further, and with connectivity at top of mind. Please enjoy our 4-part interview series hosted by Andrew Faiola, Head of Mobility at ST Engineering iDirect. In today's episode, Andrew and KD discuss the blue economy, opportunities for collaboration, the role of connectivity in promoting sustainability, and much more. We hope you enjoy the conversation.
Hi, Kate, and welcome back. This time we're going to be talking a little bit about the global ocean ecosystem, or the blue economy. So the shipping industry isn't really considered to be a green industry. But when you describe the blue domain, I'm thinking of ways that the commercial industry can contribute to ocean science. So we have customers today that are providing connectivity to research vessels operating around the world. They're also providing services to specialized vessels that are doing mapping of the ocean floors, servicing wind farms, things like that. But I think that ships themselves, aside from some of these applications, can actually, besides being consumers of data and information, given the global nature of the shipping industry, can actually start to act even more as generators of information. And I think even the boring vessels like bulk cargo containers, and apologies in advance to anyone in bulk cargo, but they're doing the Great Circle route, around and around and around. And I think there's this great potential to generate data that can help with the overall blue economy and learning about what's actually going on in the environment where these things operate. I mean, how do you think that this sort of, let's call it a shift from consumption to generation of information, changes the landscape for the shipping ecosystem generally, from the service providers that we work with to you mentioned on one of the other episodes about the fuel containers around the world that are providing most of the fuel for these ships.
Yeah, I think without wanting to be sort of too Lord of the Rings about it, it comes down to actually purpose. And, what a lot of ship operators and shipping companies are struggling with at the moment is, what is our purpose? Because this is something that more and more companies are being asked. And shipping is in a very difficult position because it's done a super duper job of, very cheaply getting goods across oceans. And now suddenly, poor old shipping, people are turning around and saying, well, actually, you're filthy dirty and you don't contribute anything to society, and shipping's going, oh, wow, but, we did what you wanted. And they did, they've done really well under the current paradigm. But when we talk about the blue domain and the blue economy, what we then start saying is, this is global stewardship of our oceans. And shipping has been, even though when we talk about shipping, oh, that's maritime. Actually, maritime, it isn't. It's oceans, it's wildlife, it's ecosystem, it's all sorts of things. But shipping has never really been considered as part of that, and it's never considered itself as part of that. And part of the reason I think that the blue domain is such an opportunity for shipping is because it is very difficult to look at the current global consumer economy and say that, transporting containers full of, rubber dog poop across the ocean is a real benefit to society. You may have trouble justifying that. However, if you can say that while you're transporting that rubber dog poop, you are also creating, an incredible visibility into the state of the ocean, and all, finding information about, what sea life is beneath you and, what the weather is doing and all these other things, that gives you an opportunity to really create a purpose and a societal value that isn't there at the moment. So I think, you know, there's no question that we have not looked after the oceans in the way that we need to. And I think I mentioned in my keynote at the webinar that, you know, 2021 begins the decade of ocean science. And Paul, the president of the World Ocean Council, you know, what he says is ships can become what he calls platforms of opportunity. And literally what the World Ocean Council is trying to do is broker these, you know, opportunities between scientists and ship owners, operators, to say, can we put this kit on board, you know, and when it's on board, can the World Ocean Council help to make sure that that data comes off and goes to the right place and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, there's no question that we have, you know, real calamitous declines in species and in the condition of the oceans, and shipping is just one stakeholder. I think the toughest thing for shipping is to recognize that what is currently going on within global ocean governance, you know, whether that's the, you know, the United Nations, you know, law of the sea renegotiations, or all these kind of things, this is going to affect shipping's license to operate. It's actually, you know, with marine spatial planning, is going to say, you know what, you may be a ship operator, but you can't do this anymore. And the worry is that an awful lot of ship operators aren't in on that conversation. They're not aware that their future business model is likely to be impacted by global ocean governance discussions, which are kind of not even really on their radar. So, you know, how does this, you know, where is this important for connectivity suppliers? Well, to me, again, it's an absolutely obvious area where you can find a real purpose and a societal value to the business that you operate. Because if you can enable transparency of the global oceans, then you are creating something incredibly valuable, and it's actually valuable beyond just corporate, you know, dollars and bank balance. And I have to say that, you know, we're entering at what I call the new moral age. You know, these new generations, you know, you've got kids, I've got kids, you know, I have conversations with my, you know, 16-year-old, and I'm like, wow, you know, they are zero tolerance about everything. And when it starts being exposed, you know, they go, well, we'll just change it. And you're like, well, you can't just change it. They say, no, you have to change it. And this license to operate that companies need is going to become really critical. And I think in the blue domain, it is not only a necessity, you know, it's not only something that we should do because it's the right thing to do, but I think commercially, it's also something that, you know, that can be very beneficial, because there will always be in industries things that we're not very proud of. There'll be things it's going to take us time to change. And I think if we can make commitments to do things around data and transparency for the good of the oceans now, that's going to help to mitigate some of the things it's going to take us longer to change.
No, I absolutely think there's a huge window to, you know, not just do good, but do well out of it. But I think certainly from the, let's say the service provider area, you know, we naturally fall back to like our comfort zone. So it's like very easy to go from providing connectivity to talk about cybersecurity and you know, IT management and this kind of thing. That's a I think a logical progression, but a lot of this is done in the service of regulations and compliance. And to your point, I think there's that actually gives us as an industry an opportunity to become more engaged with that wider blue economy discussion, to actually, you know, take a spade and do some shoveling ourselves, because I think the tools that we can bring to bear from a connectivity standpoint can actually help drive you know, some of those, let's say, zero tolerance issues that maybe our kids have. You know, here's a way that they can be addressed, and it can't be done without connectivity. So there's definitely, I think there's a seat at the table that in our industry we have to look to you know, get our bums into.
Yeah, and I think again, it's about, you know, the global ocean ecosystem, you know, which is, I think, what the World Ocean Council describes it as. I think I've nicked their phrase there, but it is about an ecosystem. And one of the other things that I talk about a lot is the change in regulation. You know, at the moment, flag states spend $29 billion US a year on enforcing maritime regulation. And the majority of people who don't follow the rules actually get away with it. And the problem is that, you know, not only does that create a race to the bottom, it also means that if you behave well, your costs of operation are higher than somebody who doesn't. And I think what collaborative regulatory ecosystems do is they make data in real time transparent to a range of stakeholders, which means you can monitor, you can regulate in real time. And you could do this now. You really could. But the thing is, in order to make that kind of thing a reality, you need the connectivity people, you need the technology people to come in and not just say, you know, where's an app that can, you know, save you a bit on fuel, but to say, how do we profoundly change the quality of shipping operations? Because I tell you, you know, I as I say, I work with lots of ship managers, ship operators and owners, and they are deeply committed to sustainability. You know, they are deeply committed to looking after their crews and actually operating at the very top end, you know, of what they can deliver. And actually, if you empower them with technology and connectivity to improve that, they're going to lap it up. But the problem is at the moment that it's all being focused on how do we cut costs and how do we digitize, as opposed to how do we start solving the big problems. And, you know, shipping and the global ocean economy, this is a really important point to me, because I see it all the time. We always talk about shipping being, you know, a bit bellwether, you know, when volumes fall, oh, you know, we're going to have a recession. But actually it's a bellwether in another way right now, because what it's showing is that in order to really regulate shipping, you need a global governance with teeth. And actually you either do that or you say, we can't do this at all. And you fall back to regional regulation. And that actually is, in microcosm, a global phenomenon now. We've reached a point where we are either going to say, you know, we have massive climate change, we have all these issues. Are we going to have a global governance to change this, global systems level change, or are we going to allow things to fragment and, you know, all the problems that come with that? So I think it's fascinating in shipping. And I think if shipping could demonstrate that this is how you make global governance work using technology, I think that would be an amazing legacy for the industry.
Well, I think you said it in one of the earlier episodes about being able to standardize information, having it accessible to multiple stakeholders. I think we're in a fortunate position in that providing connectivity globally is one of the keys to opening that up. It's just making sure that you know, we help push things in that direction. And we have customers now who are working, for example, with fishery agencies in various countries, you know, to do with fish catch monitoring and the like for compliance and that kind of thing. So, you know, I'm starting to see this stewardship coming where the application provider, the service provider, the fleet owner, the agency, government agency are all working in lockstep to start to deliver this kind of information. Is it fragmented and you know, is it happening quickly enough? I think our kids would certainly argue that's not happening nearly quickly enough, but from 5 years ago even, you know, I've seen a massive step change in these programs. And I
there's
think,
a couple.
Yeah.
So I was going to say there's a couple of things here, and one of them is that, you know, fragmented and whatever as this may be, the thing is that it's ecosystem thinking again, you know. And what you find is when people start, I mean, I remember doing, we were asked to do some research in the fisheries a few years ago. We were absolutely staggered. You know, the information isn't there. The data just wasn't there. I mean, it was a massive project for us. And by the time we finished, we realized that we were literally the global leading authority on fishing, you know, those stats, because nobody had ever pulled it together. And, you know, that kind of thing really opens your eyes to the fact that these are critical numbers, you know, and the FAO are reporting things 5 years in retrospect. How useful is that to make policy that's, you know, going to happen in 10 years time? But the other thing I would say on that is, you know, we mentioned our kids again. If you say, would you like to come and work for a satellite network operator? You know, what do we do? Well, we do satellites. I mean, that's pretty sexy. To be fair, actually, rocket science is quite sexy. Maybe this isn't a great example. But when you say we're actually involved in improving the health of the oceans, you know, part of our corporate purpose is in enabling the oceans to return to better health. That is an incredibly attractive proposition for the next generation of really smart employees that you want to attract. And I don't think we should underestimate that.
No, absolutely. We know that new employees, they have to have a purpose. They have to feel purpose driven and have a mission. I feel like I need to have a mission and a purpose, or else what's it all for? So
yeah, can I just say that, Andrew? Yeah. Absolutely. And just, I remember being in a board of a very, very large company a few years ago and saying these Gen Zs, these Gen Ys, millennials, they want a purpose. They actually want to feel like they're making a difference. And I remember this guy, he was a CFO. He's now the CEO of this huge company. And he said, yeah, but we all felt like that. We feel like that. And I said, yeah, but the thing is, they have different tools now. So I don't think it's just Gen Zs and Gen Ys that want this. I think we all want it. It's just that we've grown up in an environment and a corporate environment where it wasn't prioritized, and they're going to help us prioritize it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had the same thing when I was that age, same thing now, except for the fact when I was that age, I was sending a fax. So, what can I tell you? But no, this has been excellent. And, I think that actually is giving us a lot to think about in terms of not only our place in the blue ocean economy, but also, right, how we engage our employees and our colleagues who we work with to keep them enthusiastic about what we're trying to achieve. So I really appreciate that, and look forward to talking to you on the next one.
Thanks, Andrew.
If you enjoyed this conversation with Katie Adamson, be sure to check out the other episodes in this series. We cover a broad number of maritime topics that span technology, sustainability, and more. Thank you for listening to this Frequencies podcast. You can find other episodes on a range of topics wherever you listen to podcasts. Please join us again for more conversations with ST Engineering iDirect.